Hello, everybody. My name is Liddy Pivik, and I am going to be your host for this session. And in this session, we will be talking about innovative financing solutions. Later in the day, our final panel discussion will give an outlook at synergies, networks, and the way forward. But just to give everybody an idea of the next 90 minutes, we will begin with 3 wonderful presentations. One is by Gonzalo Úrculo. The next one is a shared presentation by Dr. Jenny Lay-Kumar and Johanna Saxler. And then Ralf Böhlke is also going to give another presentation. After that, we have a Q&A session prepared. Joining us for this Q&A session is Professor Dr. Anna Häring from the Eberswalde University of Sustainable Development. If you at any point have any questions, be sure to write them down. There is a small Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen, so just open that and you can write a question. Additionally, you can vote on other people's questions. So if you see a question you are also interested in, you can hit the little thumbs up button, and then we will see that lots of people want to hear an answer to that. As those of us who've joined us yesterday and the day before know that there's a lot of additional information on our website. If you head to foodsystemchange.org, there is a header called Outcome, and if you click on that, you will find an overview of various niche innovations, videos, and the sustainability potential of each of these niches. This session is going to be recorded, so if anybody wants to ask a question, you are more than welcome to. Just use the little hand raising tool and I can let you ask a question, but be aware that your voice or video might be will be recorded. So if you don't want to do that, just write it in the Q&A tool. And should there be any technical questions or difficulties, you can write them in the chat. We have people behind the scenes who can figure it out and help you out there. All right, I think that's it for the boring stuff. Our first speaker is Gonzalo Úrculo, and he will tell us more about online direct marketing. Welcome, Gonzalo. He's joining us from a beautiful scenery.
Yeah, it is not a virtual background, it's reality. So today I am in our orange farm here in Valencia. We are in Bétera, close to Valencia. And here is where we created 5 years ago the concept of crowdfarming. Should I start?
Yes,
okay.
You may start. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your introduction, and thank you all of you for joining for this presentation and for this webinar. I will share my screen, but I prefer to talk usually without presentations because I have like bad experience with presentations because I speak too much and I always forget to put to the next slide. So so thank you for joining, and I will share my experience of crowdfarming. So if any one of you want to ask me anything after this presentation, you can just write. My email is gonzalo@crowdfarming.com. Okay, well, I am a farmer and I am co-founder of CrowdFarming. And CrowdFarming nowadays is a platform where farmers from around 8 countries are selling to final consumers, especially in Europe. Okay, and well, we create crowdfarming because myself, I started as a orange farmer 10 years ago in our orange field here where I am today. And I quit my job in logistics and I decided to come here. And at the beginning, I was just cultivating oranges in an organic way. 10 years ago, it was not so common to cultivate here in Valencia organic, and it was so difficult for me and my brother to sell our harvest because we were receiving like the same price that the conventional or the conventional oranges. So we decided to create our own channel because before that our oranges were treated as commodity. You know, I think in Europe, most of the fruit that you can buy in a supermarket are treated like a commodity. So it doesn't, they don't differentiate how the farmer has cultivated these oranges. Even if both have that, like the organic stamp, there are people cultivating in a way and other people cultivating in another way, and you, I think there is a big difference between oranges, even when they both have like organic stamp. So we decided to create our own channel, and not just because so that we can control the price that we sell the oranges, but also to create a direct contact with customers. I think the only feedback that we were having before we created this direct channel was coming from the intermediaries, and the intermediaries usually don't give the feedback that is constructive and that helps you to do it better. They just give you like bad feedback so that they can pay you less for your harvest. So we created our own channel, and thanks to this direct channel, we received like a lot of feedback from final consumers, and they were asking us why this year the skin is so thin, or why this year they are more acid, and why are this time. So we discovered that there are like a lot of people that wanted to learn more from the fruits or from the food that they were receiving. And most of the questions that we receive that the customer ask us, usually a customer cannot do these questions in a supermarket, no? So we decided that there was room to create like a web page where consumers can get in direct contact with farmers and ask them all the things that they want to know about the food they receive. The good thing about crowd farming is that for farmers is that you are not just buying a box of fruit, you are adopting something. And the method of or the model of adoption of the adopting a tree is very romantic, but at the same time it has a lot of sense from a farm point of view. By offering your trees as an adoption, each of your tree has like a family that adopt this tree. And for you as a farmer, a part of getting to know the price at the start of the season, that this is that gives you a lot of security to invest and to do things right. It also, like, you can also finance all the year round. You know that the farmers, usually we have to invest, and we don't see the money until the end of the season. And sometimes when the intermediary come and pays you for the oranges, the market price for your oranges are below all the costs that you have been supporting. Especially for young farmers that our bank account haven't got many reserve money, let's say, we cannot risk all the year, all our job during 1 year before knowing how much we will get from our oranges. So the method of adopting something give us this security that the harvest that we are working, the harvest that we are producing, the production, the oranges in my case that we are producing, someone will end up eating it or consuming it or ordering to their home. So this way that you can offer like a good price, like a fair price, let's say, and the customer know in advance what is the price, and also the farmer knows in advance what is the price when the oranges are ripe. Okay, so this model of adopting a trees gives you a lot of financial security. Also for the consumers, when they adopt an orange tree, they are not treated as consumers. They are treated as let's say, partners for the farmer, and they can know what we are doing with their trees all the year round. They receive pictures, they receive information, they can come to visit the tree. So it's a much more stronger relationship with the farmers. And the more and more are people that they like to know these things. No, when you are going to a supermarket to buy oranges, all the marketing that they do is they treat you just with one purpose, like you to buy something. No, they want you to buy something. In crowd farming, we have changed our minds, and we don't want to treat the people that adopt as consumers. We want to treat them as partners, and this means that there are so many things that they want to learn about farming, and we need to teach them, and we need to answer to these questions. So one of the best things that I have discovered by buying and also selling my fruits through the internet is that you really get a much more transparent food supply chain. Okay, so do I have more time, Lily?
You have a little bit more time, but
Okay.
you feel free to also be done if you don't.
No. So after we have like a local success here in Valencia, and we have all our trees are adopted. So this means that everything that we produce will be consumer. So we don't have any loss of food waste because we are growing for a lot of families coming from Europe, and they can receive the oranges when the oranges are ripe. Okay. We are now in crowd farming. Like I said, we are more than 150 farmers. Farmers are coming from Spain, Italy, France, Austria, Germany, and we also have some coffee farmers in Colombia. And it's amazing how this model is evolving in the past 2 years. I think there is happening a big revolution, not just in the farmer side, but also in the consumer side. All the farmers that I know here in the area of Valencia, they are really looking for ways to sell their fruits or the fruit they produce directly to consumers. And at the same time, I have the feeling that there is a lot of consumers that are looking for ways to buy directly to farmers. So there is a really beautiful revolution that is happening, and I think it will boost in the next years. So there is not just there is not just like a small percentage of the population looking for ways to buying. The more and more we are seeing that not just the most activist people are looking for these ways, like people with a little interest are demanding more transparency in the food supply chain. And this is very good news for European young farmers, because I think they can sell their fruit directly, gives them more power to the European young farmers. Before the direct sales, we need to compete with farmers from South Africa or with farmers with Brazil that we all know that have different cost, especially special labor cost, and we cannot compete in terms of cost with these fincas from all other parts of the world. I think I'm done.
Okay, you could have 2 more minutes, but that's okay. We can move on. Thank you very much for this very interesting introduction to your project. And yeah, sharing your approach to getting your product to the people. I'm sure we will have lots of interesting questions for you. If you have any questions as of this moment, feel free to put them in the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen. And then we will move on to our next presentation. This is, as I said earlier, a joint presentation by Dr. Jenny Lay-Kumar and Johanna Saxler from the Regionalwert AG Freiburg. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you
you see my screen?
Yes.
That's great. So, hi, let me quickly introduce me and Johanna to you. So my name is Lay-Kumar. I'm a trained sociologist and leader of our research and development department at Regionalwert AG Freiburg. Regionalwert AG means regional value private shareholder company. I'll explain that in a minute. And Johanna is an expert on sustainable resource use and organic agriculture, and she's one of our research associates. So, what is Regionalwert AG doing? We put like really big words into a title saying we're doing true value accounting for sustainable agricultural systems. So what does that mean? I think one important thing to say right in the beginning is that we are kind of working on two levels. So one is as a meta structure, we are working for regional food system change, working as a kind of support system meta structure, offering innovative financing systems for small and medium agri-food businesses, all of them organic right now. And the second kind of level on top is we are doing research and development on innovative financing instruments, especially developed for agriculture, but reaching far beyond. Our mission is to develop and provide true value accounting instruments for sustainable agricultural and food systems. So let's look a little more deeply into Regionalwert AG. The idea is with this regional value citizen shareholder company that citizens take responsibility for their region by becoming shareholders. Regional Value AG invests equity capital in small and medium-sized enterprises along the whole value chain of the agricultural and food industry. And we organize the cooperation of capital providers, oh sorry, it was too quick, and partner companies for the development of that sustainable agricultural system. So maybe this little picture gives you a little bit an idea that we have the seed production, the agriculture processing, then these are our shares. We have the trade here on our farmers market, for example. We have gastronomic services and restaurants. So we are kind of trying to involve the citizens into that whole cycle. Regionalwert AG was founded in Freiburg, so in southern Germany, but it's spreading. We have 5 Regionalwert AGs that are already established in Germany, so the dark greens are the ones that are already founded. We have more and more regions that are interested and about to form cooperations with us in Germany, but also in neighboring countries. And of course, we hope that we can spread our concept globally. And so if you're interested in that, please contact us.
Okay.
So for the fields of activity, I'm handing over to Johanna.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me well. Okay, so as Jenny mentioned, like with the key business of the Regionalwert AG Freiburg, we have by now a share capital of over 4 million euros and over 800 shareholders. And the great thing is that in this concept, social, ecological, and regional economic services are seen as return on investment. So we have like an extended view on profit already within our company. So and like this, we have created a value creation network of agricultural producers, organic markets, wholesalers, and other partners in our region over the years. But we were simultaneously engaged in further fields of activity because we think this is not enough. So we did 2 research projects over the years. Mainly, one of them was called rechnen. This translates to calculating correctly, and it's a true value accounting for businesses in the agricultural sector. And another project which is has the same method behind it, but it extends it to other businesses in the food sector. I will go into a little more detail on these projects further on. And out of these projects, we also developed sustainability assessment tools for farms. One of them is a self-check for farm managers, and the other one is a performance accounting, a financial valuation of sustainability. Okay, and with these research projects and sustainability assessments tool, we basically want to address the following problem. If I'm a farmer and I produce crops or milk or anything, I can sell it on the market and I get money for it. Could you click next, please? Yeah. So I can use the money to reproduce the same products again. But farmers who want to do more, who want to invest in I don't know, biodiversity and sustainability services, they do not get any market price for it. So it's either only idealists who do it, or many people just don't do anything for our society, for environment with their classical farming, because they just cannot afford it, which is pretty bad. So the problem is that sustainability services do not generate classical profits, which is why we think profit needs to be thought differently, or rather social, ecological, and regional economic services. So sustainability services need to be financially valued. This is something that needs to be added to the view on profit. Next, please. Yeah. Okay, so the method that we developed in the research projects that I addressed is that for taking into account this extended view on profit, or to value sustainability services, we need to take 4 steps. The first step would be the documentation of social, ecological, and regional economic services, or short sustainability services, because if you want to know if a farm acts sustainably or not, you need to know, you need to develop indicators to measure it. In the next step, these indicators need to be interpreted and evaluated. And for this, we set threshold values, and then by doing research, by doing workshops, we set these threshold values, and then we can say if a certain performance of a farmer or of a business is sustainable or not. In the third step, and this is pretty extraordinary or new within our method, is that we add financial values to these interpreted key figures or indicators, because we say that they need to become part of the company balance sheet in the end, to really get understood by people, and because they are actually they are sustainability services that need to be financially valued. So in the end, our vision is a true value balance sheet with a profit and loss calculation for accounts, which really takes into account all the services that a farm or a food business does beyond the classical view on profit. Our evaluation and monetization method is based on 4 different points of view, which we all take into consideration for our indicators, for setting threshold values for sustainable behavior and so on. The first 2 are rather objectifiable. These are threshold and target values from science and politics. For example, the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, or planetary boundaries, or secondly, the empirical status quo from average performance of other companies. But we say it's also really important to take into account the subjective valuation of farmers and stakeholders of the food sector, because we want we wanted to develop a method which is really practically doable, and which is also supported by the society, which is why we also take into account the societal consensus or the opinion of society. Okay. And as I mentioned before, based on this method, we developed two tools for sustainability assessment and calculation for farms, with which we wanted to provide a tool for farmers to show which sustainability performance they do, and also to assess their farm management. So one of them is called Regionalwert Nachhaltigkeitsanalyse, Regionalwert Sustainability Assessment for farm management. And with it, farmers can transparently identify sustainability performances and risks. And as I mentioned, like what we do and what we find really important is that sustainability performances get a financial value, which is why we also developed a performance calculation tool for financial evaluation of sustainability services. And it is a demonstration of the sustainability performances to create a fair payment basis for farmers, which I mentioned before, which take into account all these performances they provide. And as I mentioned before, once these services or performances have a financial value, they can be added to a true value account, which Jenny will explain a little deeper now.
Yeah, thanks, Johanna. So let's go a little more deeply into what this true value accounting means, because if, like me, you're not like traditionally from economics, you may not immediately know what that means. So our idea is when we say accounting, we're talking about accounting in the sense of financial balance sheet. With our tools, it is possible to record and to organize crucial information on sustainability services and to get into a more detailed chart of accounts. On the side of liabilities, it is possible to extend the expenses that you have and to differentiate them, as well as provisions for sustainability. So here you can clearly hear that this is a vision, because this is not accepted by the regulative frameworks and standards yet, but this is the idea as we have it. On the other side, on the side of assets, you can see sustainability assets in detail. And this is an important aspect, because if you want to do accounting of subsidies or compensations payment, then this can be distributed as based on value added. So we are really trying to get into the logic of the classical economic thinking and saying, if you do sustainability related services as agricultural business or processor, etc., then you should be able to show that in detail, and you should also be able to put that into your balance sheet. And that would change the reality, especially of small agri-food businesses, tremendously. So what is necessary for that is that the rules of financial accounting should be extended to natural and human capital. Sounds like a really big vision, but let me present to you the project that we are just finishing in these days, called Quarta Vista. So this means the 4 perspectives, and it is an innovation project we did with SAP, you know, this huge transnational software giant, together with 4 organic food pioneers, which they are doing seed production. Our partners are doing agriculture and the whole value chain. Bosner Mühle is doing processing of cereals, and Bodan is an organic food retailer. So those were the companies who experimented with our method, and the whole project was funded by the Ministry of Social Affairs and Labor in Germany, and part of this initiative, New Quality of Work. The objective was to develop a digital navigation system for value-oriented companies. So what we are doing was starting in the food sector, but we're going way beyond, and now we believe you could expand that also, yeah, basically all over the world if you wanted. So what we're doing here is we basically have the same ideas as Johanna presented before, and also the same concepts. We have 4 sustainability dimensions. So I think ecology, society, and finance shouldn't be so surprising, but we have knowledge as an additional dimension, which is also important in the agri-food sector, especially when you're thinking of some unconventional practices. They need a lot of knowledge, for example, in seed saving, or also in traditional processing methods. And so we believe that invest in knowledge is also sustainability invest, or losing knowledge is also losing concerning sustainability. So what we did was we developed KPIs, so key performance indicator sets, on knowledge preservation, on quality of work, and on carbon footprint. We also had some more that only few of the companies developed in detail, such as social commitment, economic sovereignty, regional economic cycles, and regional network density. And then we declinated that down to the activities that the businesses are doing, to the expenses they have. And then we went all the way through those steps that Johanna presented to you into the monetization and into an extended balance sheet. And we can show with this that it is possible to include those indicators into traditional financial thinking, if you want and if you're ready to take the effort. And we get a lot of attention for this. So I'm going to Berlin on Tuesday to tell a lot of people in Germany. So if you're a German speaker, you're very invited to this presentation also. And we are also being asked by the ministry, how exactly are you doing this? So in case they want to change the rules and create new standards for sustainability accounting, our ideas will certainly be included in that. And I think that gives a lot of hope to us that we can truly contribute to this food system and sustainability transformation. So let's just have a really brief summary and outlook. Regionalwert AG creates a value-added network to enable regional food sovereignty. Projects and products to value social, ecological, and regional economic services financially are being developed, tested, and provided. And we have this vision of the integration of sustainability assets into accounts to enable a future and value-oriented economy. So I hope you got a little bit of inspiration on what we're doing. I'm running out of time. Thank you for that. And if you're interested in our project, please write to one of our websites. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Both of you, very, very exciting new information there. And it doesn't stop here. We have one more presentation. Welcome to Ralf Böhlke. He will tell us more about land cooperatives, specifically the Terre de Lion. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear audience, I feel this is a really intense session for you. You get lots of different inputs. I'm working for Terre de Lion in France. I don't know if you've heard the name Terre de Lion. If we had a session where I could see you, I would ask you and ask you to raise your hands. I can't see you, so I will not ask you. Instead, I will show you a presentation. What I wouldn't do so much if I would see you, because then I would like to interact with you, but that's life. Now you should see my presentation. Yeah, in very brief, terre de lien is French and means creating links through land.
Sorry, Ralf, do you want to go into the presentation mode? That might be.
I am in the presentation mode.
Yeah, I see, but it's the small screen. If you want to have it bigger, it might be easier for people to.
I don't know.
No, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I think
it was fine.
Yeah. Just keep going. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yes, yes, perfect. Thank you.
For me, I can't see a difference, but if you think it's better, then it's fine for me. So Terre de Lien is a land trust community network, and all what I will present now is about land for agriculture, about speculation and solutions. Maybe just briefly about myself. I have a business background. I worked in finance and in social finance. I have a passion for rural issues, and I was living for several years in France and in Belgium. That's where I heard from Terre de Lien. And I saw the emergence of a very similar land trust initiative from very close, because I was living in Brussels 10 years ago, and in my house, my neighbor started like Terre de Lien, the small version for Belgium. So all happened just the floor above our flat. So that was my first contact with the whole thing. And now today I'm happy to present you Terre de Lien and land access to land. In the coming, well, probably I have like 10, 11, 12 minutes left. In the coming minutes, I'm going to present you a little bit like the challenges that we are facing concerning land and agriculture. I will present you briefly what Terre de Lien is and what kind of, well, financial instrument is coming with it, because like the session today is mainly about financing financial innovations. I will briefly outline in the European dimension, and I will give you ideas, or I will give you hints if you feel like you would like to get involved in doing something like this, like in the country where you're living. So that's the program for now. I want to show you a few, wait, there's a little delay when I'm pressing a button. I would just want to show you a few examples from farmers, and like from smaller scale farmers, and how they succeeded. So here, for example, you have the case of Emily. She succeeds her parents on part of a family farm, a sheep farm. She has not enough land to secure what she wants to do, because she wants to do fruits as well. And it's necessary to have a full-time job and a farmer subsidy. So what she's doing in the end, she's doing breeding, she's doing small fruits, she's doing meat, fruits, and wool products, and she's doing farm sales from her farm, and she co-founded a producer's shop. Second example, Romain. It's just like to give you an idea of little success stories of farmers and how they succeeded. Romain is a newcomer to farming with pigs, sheep, and cows, and he was searching for land for 5 years before he was a truck driver. And he didn't have a local network, and he was seen as an outsider. That was basically the reason why he didn't succeed. In the end, it worked out. He has now 24 hectares of land for breeding. He's doing 100% of processing what he's producing, direct sales, and basically he created from the scratch his own farm. Example 3, it's Gael and Mathieu. They're newcomers to farming. They're doing market gardening. They didn't have enough capital. Their bank loan was rejected. In the end, they succeeded. They have 9 hectares of land with exceptional quality of what they're producing. And even farmers in their surrounding got interested in what they're doing. And they got help. Well, their project was, and I will not explain this in detail, their project was temporarily financed through the Saxler, which is a French regional rural agricultural development fund. And as last example that I would like to give you is Robert. He's a retired farmer and a mayor of a small village in the Prealps. Yeah, he basically he succeeded to create 3 new farms, and 4 families were involved in these projects. What we are seeing is over the years that small-scale farmers, newcomers, have difficulties to succeed with their projects because when they start somewhere, they have a lack of connections. If you're coming from a farmer family, you have these connections from the beginning on because you grow up in it. You don't have access to information on land availability, and often people don't trust you. Another handicap is that you have to compete with established farmers, and usually the highest bidder, he succeeds. So you really have to have an understanding of the value of the land, yeah, that's very hard. And you have value and market prices of the land, and that's pretty hard if you're a newcomer. Another thing is the lack of financial capacity. So basically, you need your own funds in order to get at least a bank loan. And if you find land, often there is a large spot to be sold, but as a small farmer, you only need small land. So there are a variety of reasons that are really obstacles for starting a new farm. And all those reasons are basically were motivation for the organization I am working for Tadelian, for appearing. So what Tadelian is doing is basically mobilizing people, like citizens, stakeholders, local stakeholders from agriculture and beyond. The second thing they're doing, they're really supporting farmers with know-how, with getting access to funding, and there's a lot of training involved, and there's indirectly money involved or directly money involved. And what Tadelian is doing as well, they're acquiring and managing farmland. Tadelian is not an organization, it's a conglomerate of organizations. So basically, on one hand side, there are 3 pillars. One is what I would call the community. It's a national organization, an umbrella association, and they're working together with 19 regional associations where people to come together for working on land issues. Altogether, these are 1,100 volunteer workers, plus 90 people who are employed. 89 are based in France, and 1 is living in Berlin. That's me. So this is one side. The other side is what I would call the company. It's La Foncière, and it's basically a private company limited by shares. And people who like the idea, they can buy shares from Tadelian. And so it's a limited company, but its function is very much like a cooperative. So the idea is not really generating a huge profit for the persons giving money, but generating sufficient revenues, sufficient funds for buying land. So the money that comes together is used for buying agricultural lands and buildings, and will be rented on long-term leases to new farmers. And one of the conditions for the new farmers is always that it's organic agriculture. And the third pillar is the foundation. And the foundation is buying as well land, or is as well maintaining land, but a lot of it is either given to them or like lent to them. And so what they can do as well, they can make use of this land and put farmers on it as well. So those are the three pillars of Tadelian. And if I should show you this in a quick like I'm showing you just a quick example how all that works. So basically, in the middle, you have Association Territoriale. So this is basically a kind of regional association from Tadelian. And on the bottom right, you have the farmer who has a project to get a farm. On the left side, you have Citoyen et Collectivité. It means the local councils and the citizens. And the citizens and the municipalities are putting money together on a very regional level, either in what I call the company or into the land trust. And with this money, the land is being bought, and this land then is being given to the farmer. And all this works because there's really this kind of local or this regional glue holding together all these different elements. What Tadelian has done so far, achieved so far, if you want to see the figures, there are more than 33,000 people being involved, partly as members, partly as donors, partly as investors. Altogether, more than 90 million euros have been raised as investment or as donations for buying land. More than 200 farmers set up their businesses, and almost 6,000 hectares of land have been dedicated now, thanks to Tadelian, to peasant agriculture. And there were really ties being created with local authorities. And an important part of Tadelian is really raising the voice on land issue, because often it is an issue, but it's not being spoken about. And in this French context, really, it's been spoken about. And this, I think, is the success of Tadelian, that there are so many people being involved. I think you can succeed with a model like Tadelian if you have a lot of money, or you simply have the manpower of people helping to address the issue and getting things done. I think I have another 2 minutes left. I will use that for showing a little bit of European perspective. So the reason for creating Tadelian is the same for why we decided with similar organizations for partnering up, because we figured out that land has really been an issue across Europe, or probably across the world. We are focusing on land use and land management, and fostering the change in policy that is needed for getting more agricultural farming in Europe, and for having newcomers being able to start their business as farmers. For the moment, we are still an informal network. You find us under Access to Land. And if you want to know more about it, just have a look at our website. And as the last point, if you think about this really makes sense and you wonder if you could do something like that yourself, but you don't understand what is the context in my specific country, how would an initiative, a land trust initiative work like, what are best practices? For all these questions, we have a little bit answers because we designed a brochure that we called Beginner's Kit. And you can download it for free. You find here a shortcut to our cloud space, and there you can download if you want this beginner's kit for free. And the second revised edition will be published a bit later this year. Yeah, that's basically all what I can tell about Tadlia, a little bit about the mechanism. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes, I think we will move on to the Q&A section, but first I want to introduce our next participant. Joining us to provide even more information is Professor Dr. Anna Maria Häring. She is leading the degree program Organic Farming and Marketing at the Eberswalde University for Sustainable Development. Regarding your research, hello. Can you tell us a little bit about other promising instruments to bring financial support to small projects? We've heard a few so far. Maybe you can give us some insights if there are other ones.
Mm-hmm. Would you share the screen, please? Or let me share the screen.
Yeah, there should be a green button at the bottom.
Yeah, I've tried early. I tried a moment ago.
It didn't work. Okay.
Because it said
here
you
we
needed
go.
to give me access.
Here we go.
Okay. Now I can't really see you anymore, so please give me a signal by voice if there's a question or something.
Of course.
Okay. I'll give you a very brief introduction on the work that I can base my discussion contributions later on. And that results from a project we had a couple of years ago on alternative financing for food and agriculture, which was BigFinanz, which indeed focused on the organic food and farming sector as sort of a part of the food and farming sector. But I think the conclusions that we could draw can relate to any type of farming. So please don't be irritated by that. So we looked at, or we perceived that firms committed to sustainable food increasingly use community-based financing models. So alternative financing models in this case were the same as, we defined as community-based financing models. And a wide range of models are applied. Sort of part of them, crowdfunding was addressed today, and the citizen shareholder corporation was already addressed today by Regionalwert. But there are also other instruments like profit participation rights, or the form of particular legal forms such as cooperatives or Genossenschaften in Germany, and then all other sort of not purely financing instruments, but financing related instruments such as community supported agriculture, leasing and sponsorship. And the question today was what could the potential role of these financing instruments could be for food system transformation, which is a big thing. My lens today will be, we looked into the motives and expectations of the people contributing to community-based financing or using them. Then what is their relevance in financial terms? What was their relationship and communication with investors? And then challenges and success factors. Our information base was, just to give you an idea, we screened 700 alternative financing projects in Germany. Whatever we found online, then conducted 21 semi-structured personal interviews with representatives of these projects or SMEs, and also the investor side. First, we did an online service with a feedback of over 100 people, and then 20 semi-structured personal interviews. So we tried to sort of look into both sides from a scientific perspective. And if we look into the capital seekers perspective, this is a very big table, but I wanted to give it you in one page. The different instruments, sort of entrepreneurs using the different instruments highlighted different motives, not meaning that the other motives don't also apply. So, for instance, in crowdfunding, it's mainly the marketing issue, sort of having a bridge to communicate with new or existing consumers or customers, apart from having access to finance or getting access to finance. Usually it was complementary finance, so not really bigger amounts, but more mostly smaller amounts to finance certain projects or launching a new product or something. If I continue with the profit participation rights, the main motive was to remain independent from banks. So it was a very philosophical approach to using that financing instruments. And on the other hand, improving bargaining positions when you discuss about loans with your bank. And then on top, the marketing, sort of the consumer related motivation. Here it was also usually, we're talking about smaller amounts of money, and so it's usually a complementary financing instrument. Then in cooperatives, we're talking about bigger chunks of money, is existential amounts of money, sort of for buying land, as we heard today as well, but also to, invest in certain processing capacities, so also smaller amounts of money. And here the main motive was to get access to finance and to improve the bargaining position in front of banks, apart from the marketing issue. And then we heard a lot about the Regionalwert today already. Here the users or the beneficiaries of Regionalwert mainly mentioned that they were looking or seeking alternative funding, wanted to be integrated in a larger network to reduce the effort to access capital or finance because it's organized through the intermediary Regionalwert, and usually not solely relied on that type of finance, but it was also a complementary part of their financing strategies. Interesting for me was that the relation of the SMEs to their customers or investors in the case of crowdfunding was rather impersonal. I would have thought that all the effort you have to go through to, prepare, run the campaign, do all the post-marketing of your campaign, to maintain contact with your crowdfunders would create some intensive personal bonds. But what we found is that it's rather impersonal because it's usually done via internet platforms. So there's little personal contact. And then maybe on the taking up the Regionalwert, the citizen shareholder corporation model, that was also rather impersonal. Although, if you listen to Regionalwert presentations, it usually sounds very as they have very intense personal bonds. Then maybe I'll go into the success factors and just to sort of highlight it for all different community financing models. The main success factor was communication with potential customers / or ARCA financing or investors. So you really have to have passion to invest in communication in terms of crowdfunding, in terms of nice image films and decent products, but also in the other forms of financing in the personal relation or fostering the personal relationship with your customers, consumers, and potential donors or investors. So it's basically on across all financing forms. A quick view into the investors' motives, sort of the other side of the coin is just here multiple answers possible, around nearly 200 answers. And most of the investors were motivated mainly by, they wanted to support sustainable or local food businesses, and that really outweighed their financial expectations. So it was clearly a motive of impact investing. However, non-financial rewards such as discounts or coupons or natural produce was appreciated or is appreciated. And mainly all other motives mentioned were related to, I would say, to impact investment motives. They wanted to, contribute to transparent or direct investment options in sustainable food systems, supporting an alternative economic systems, whatever they, envisaged in that case, but very sort of, impact motivated investors. Challenges, I mentioned most of them already. You need to choose a good project and a very clear financing objectives. Think about good compensations or rewards for your investors, and then communication and public relations. You have to clearly communicate your values and the intended impact, then foster network and existing relationships you have with potential customers or investors, and because they facilitate communication and foster personal trust with further contact people. And never underestimate the input you actually have to give, especially in crowdfunding campaigns, before, during, and after each campaign you run. Getting back to the question, what I think from what we've seen in this study, that the role of community financing could be for food systems transformation, I would say this is still a niche market. It's a niche, it's not a regime, it's just a very small part of food system transformation. And if you look at it as a market for money or finance, there is a very small group of investors that are aware of this option and are interested, and a very small consumer segment you might motivate to become investors in food system investing. Then there's a potential to increase investors' awareness towards sustainable food consumption. So it's a clear instrument through financing or gaining investors, also gaining future consumers towards more sustainable consumption. But it's obviously a sort of a chicken and egg problem as well. And I guess the main motivation should be for anybody interested in food system transformation to target interested citizens seeking transparent investment options, and get them interested in sustainable food systems. Because some interested citizens, they might be more aware of, I don't know, sustainable energy investments or other type of sustainable investments or impact investment, and not so much in the food system itself, just because they're not so aware yet. So thank you for that. I'll go back to my first slide and open the discussion. I can't see anything, so.
Okay, thank you. There should be a small button at the top of your screen.
Okay, yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. This was a good summary, I think, for everybody, and very interesting findings. We have some audience questions. Just a reminder, if you want to know more, please write your questions in the little tool at the bottom of the screen. We have a few questions for Gonzalo, but I think I want to first go back to Ralf, because I'm interested. Anna talked about the rewards for investors, and certainly the Regionalwert AG explained how their investors can profit from giving money to the project. Can you talk about the Terre de Lion? You said there are shareholders that give money, but what are the rewards for them?
Well, rewards, if you look like in the financial industry, is usually an outcome in terms of an annual financial benefit that you get from your money. This is a financial output that is not wanted from Tadillian. Like the idea is really that people give money in order to create something locally for recreating a local agriculture. So they benefit indirectly. For example, if the new coming farmer is producing something that afterwards they can buy, but basically there is no financial reward directly coming out.
Okay, that's good. It's good to have idealistic projects too.
No, it's not only idealistic. Sorry for
No.
getting back to you once more. There are a lot of people who have this money available and who are happily giving it, just like nobody has asked them before. So there is money available even for those purposes. Also, it's rather, if you want, yeah, realistic.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to move on. We have a few questions for Gonzalo. So one person asks, is there, you talked about this adoption strategy for the orange trees, but someone wants to know, is there an adoption strategy for cocoa or coffee plants or fruits such as mangoes, pineapple in the global south? You are, of course, operating in Europe, but do you see global potential?
Yeah, most of our customers come from Europe, and we do have one farmer in the Philippines. It's not very common because it is the wife of a friend of mine from the school. She get married to a Philippine person who used to grow cocoa trees. And they joined me at the beginning of CrowdFarming and say, okay, let's do it. But we are focused in Europe, farmers from Europe for consumers in Europe, because the way we manage the logistics in terms of neutralize and minimize the carbon footprint of the transport that we do from farms to consumers, we combine loads from different farmers. For example, here, here in the region of Valencia, Murcia, and Andalusia, we have trucks starting the route from the south of Spain. We pick some mangoes and avocados in the south, then we fill the truck with lemons in Murcia, then we fill the truck with oranges here in Valencia. Then we can go to France, fill with more cheese, and then go to, for example, to Frankfurt, and then we download we distribute from there. So nowadays we do have like synergies with farmers from Europe, and we cannot really offer like really good solutions from farmer outside Europe. In Italy, for example, in Sicilia, we have the same. We send a tractor and we pick from all the farmers in Sicilia, and then we fill the truck with more loads in Italy, and then we go to France or to UK or to Germany. So we are specialized in Europe.
Okay, perfect. Maybe I can move on to a question for the two ladies from the Regionalwert AG. I know you answered this in the tool already, but I think several other people listening might be interested. So the question was, how is ownership and voice distributed in your case? Is it directly related to the investment, or can there be other forms of contribution?
Yes, I really like that question, and it's true that we didn't highlight the other ways people can contribute. So the idea of buying shares in order to give equity capital to small agri-food businesses is of course just one way. Then it depends like in which function or position you are. We have a lot of cooperating partners that can be businesses or research institutions or partners from administration, or just like people in our network who engage with us. So well, at least before COVID, we used to have a lot of festivities and talks that we give and workshops. And so, of course, one way of engaging is also to talk to us, to invite us to places, to give us the opportunity to speak to other groups of people, may there be students or whatever, women in the countryside where I live, or whatever. Also, administration is a really important partner for us, because we're trying really to get also into the structural level. And for example, in our region of Freiburg, we are talking to the city to ask them, what do you need in order to secure food sovereignty and sustainability transformation in your agri-food system? And we have a lot of information also that we can provide to them. And so there's like lots of ways to engage with us. If you don't want to give classical money, you can also give time, knowledge, network competencies, critical questions. Everything is welcome.
That's good. Thank you. I just want to remind everybody, if somebody wants to talk to our speakers directly, I can make that happen. Just raise your hand. In the meantime, I think Fabienne asked a question in the chat. I'll just read it out. I think this is suitable for everybody, so whoever wants to answer, just go ahead. The question is, how do you estimate the potential of community financing, where it allows investors for more participation on how or what money is spent? She mentions participatory budgeting or other methods such as quadratic funding. Yeah. Or if Fabienne wants to speak and elaborate on the question, I think that would be possible too. Yes, here we go. I will give you the opportunity. Here we go. Okay, you should be able to speak. Hello.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Thank you very much for all of these super interesting presentations. I, in particular, was very close listening to the Regionalwert AG, and it's the question is a sort of a little bit of a follow-up to the question that was just answered before on how I'm recently looking into such things as participatory budgeting and how to actually include more of the citizens in financing the transformation, and in that I find it very interesting if people can also then, if they do finance, if they can also have a voice in how that money is spent and what kind of projects the money flows to. And I find this can create an interesting dynamic of allocating funds to first of all, allocating funds to interesting projects that the collective finds interesting, and also to kind of spur more creative and diverse projects from people themselves, if they can then introduce such proposals to such a network. So I was wondering if this is an avenue that, or if even Regionalwert AG is following such things, or yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Fabienne. So I think now I got more exactly what you were asking. In fact, I think we see all those approaches of community-based agriculture, beekeeping, etc., kind of as befriended approaches. So we like them. We have a few corporations. But I think for me, the main difference is a lot of those projects that are community supported, they are starting right now. So we have, for example, in Freiburg, community supported beekeeping, and they started from zero, and then they established this. At Regionalwert AG, we often have farmers who seek direct help. They run out of money. The bank doesn't want to give them credit anymore. They are afraid they will have to sell their animals, everything. And so they don't have the time to go into a large participatory process and involve other people, create this community support to support them, etc. So I think this is why then we're choosing the way to say, if we think we can support you, we can help you to maintain your business, we do that directly. While the other way, we also support, for example, in Freiburg, a community-supported vineyard just started, organic vineyard, PV, etc. thing, and this, it's Andreas Dilger, he's also a partner of ours. So this cooperation is possible, but the approach is just a little bit, I would say this community supported needs more time in order to build up, while Regionalwert AG, as we have equity capital right straightly, we can help more quickly. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, but I was actually not referring to community supported agriculture and this kind of participation. I was more referring to the allocation of the funds. So yes, of course, it would be farmers that, for example, they need funds to, let's say they want to put a part of their farm into an agroforestry system, and they want money for that. So they would actually write this proposal and put this into the network, and then people could actually also vote on that project. So they would be participating actively in where the allocation goes to, not
okay. Sorry, I was maybe also in my own research loop a little bit, and I was working on community-based stuff before, so that came to my mind directly. In fact, we are trying to figure out with the shareholders or the people involved into which companies or like actors in the value chain we want to put money in. We could also enlarge that to forest owners. I think, Johanna, we're planning something like this, or energy suppliers we just added to our network. And then, of course, people can vote where they want money to go, and also into which services, because we were just talking about socio-ecological services, but there you can also differentiate. Are you promoting, for example, in the dimension ecology, is it rather soil fertility, biodiversity, animal wealth, or in the social dimension, is it about fair working conditions, fair payments, health provisions, etc., etc. So we are also trying to enable our shareholders to vote on that, to say what is more important to you, because we always have trade-offs in this field, and to say, what do you think about those trade-offs? What is most important to you, and how do you interlink what is most important to you? And so there we have this direct possibility to decide, where does my money go, into which kind of service, position in the value chain, or contribution to the whole resilience of the system.
Perfect. I think Dr. Häring also wanted to say something.
It was covered already.
Okay, thank you. You think alike. Very good. Do we have more questions? Let me have a look. In the meantime, if anybody wants to speak to our panelists, that's still possible. Let's see, do we have a question for... maybe let's talk a little bit more about knowledge. So we have heard from the Regionalwert AG Freiburg that you use knowledge as the fourth sustainability dimension. And I heard Gonzalo earlier talk about educating the customers about the product. And I'm just curious, do you see any additional ways of educating your customers or the people who are funding your projects about these innovations that you are using? And whoever wants to answer that.
I maybe, as Gonzalo is still a bit slow in turning on his mic, I would I'm a bit irritated about using educating consumers, because if they're basically interested, you can sort of get them engaged, and that can trigger their I don't know, their desire to invest, to help you in a small investment, to invest in like a larger thing such as Regionalwert AG, or a soil, a land buying cooperative, sort of seeking their impact in a more sustainable food system. But that usually sort of comes hand in hand with, okay, I also act as a customer and a consumer, and I buy, by being a market actor, I also contribute to that transformation. But I wanted to draw on another aspect of education. In many of these let's say community-based financing bubbles, there's a quite intensive exchange of farmers or food processors among each other. Let it be in Regionalwert because they're all in the same region and community, or let it be because, I don't know, in a Young Farmers Association, they talk about how to do their crowdfunding initiatives. And that is a learning or an educating peer-to-peer system that sort of results around the financing issue that we don't really, or I haven't looked into. I just sort of observe it in an anecdotal way, but I haven't seen like a structured investigation of it. But I'm perfectly convinced that part of the benefits, it also lies in that peer-to-peer exchange.
Okay, thank you. Gonzalo found the microphone. Do you want to add anything?
Well, yes. I mean, by educating I don't know if we are educating. We are just giving more transparency about the job of the farmers. People are willing to know questions that they don't receive those answers when they go to a normal supermarket, because it's not very common that you go to a supermarket and that you ask to the people there in the supermarket, do you know the name of the farmer that grew these oranges, or do you know where this clementine was picked, or do you know how was the weather there in Valencia? So there are like people really wanted to know how much water, for example. We receive a lot of questions about how much water do we use to produce 1 kilo of oranges. How many hours of light? How do these pests affect to the fruit? Is this just an aesthetical issue, or is this more, this connection between farmers and consumers? Especially for farmers, I think that they are changing their mind completely. I have a friend who is a farmer, he's 68, and he is mind-blowing now with all the feedback that he is receiving for customers, because he has been cultivating his oranges for 40 years now, but he was cultivating those oranges for the intermediaries. So his main objective was to cultivate a beautiful oranges, not a good oranges, but a beautiful one. So now that he received all the feedback from the consumer, and that he noticed that the consumer accepts like ugly food as a good food, he really at the beginning he didn't believe me. I say, no, Gonzalo, I don't believe you. You cannot get paid for these oranges. That is ugly. I say, but open the oranges, it's good inside. I say, and especially when you do organic oranges, you don't look for beautiful oranges. You just look for good oranges, good for the health and good for the taste, no? And also because thanks to the direct sales, we don't use any preservatives or any wax to make the orange look nicer. You don't need to. And I think the consumer here in these direct sales don't buy like a product, don't buy like a beautiful product, they also buy the way you do things. They are not just receiving an oranges. They are not just paying for ananas, they are paying for the way they produce fruit. So consumers really make the impact that they want by choosing from where to buy their food.
Certainly, yeah, that is important to remember, and that builds trust also with your customers. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what can be done to increase trust with your financiers and to increase this impact of community financing. So what can you do there? And again, anybody who wants to answer can answer.
I mean, be as, sorry to answer again, being transparent is being yourself. And also in farming, the farmers, we used to communicate just the good thing. Ah, look, I have a really good oranges. But when you really want to be transparent, you have to also communicate the bad things about how this weather has affected your harvest. So transparency means, at least from my point of view, and as a farmer, you are open to communicate everything what has happened to you during the whole season.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I see lots of people raising their hands. Maybe we can go to Ralf actually, because we haven't heard from him in a long time, and I feel a little bad.
I don't feel bad. There were interesting questions to the other speakers. That's absolutely perfect. I think transparency, as Gonzalo said, is one really important point. The other one is, I think the closer you're connected to the person you're financing, the closer the ties, the links are, the easier it becomes. Because the problem with crowdfunding, you can give money from the end of the world, but if you're really next to the person you're financing, there is even a kind of social pressure. Like, you know, if you borrow money to somebody in a village, you will get the money back, because the social pressure that you have debts to your neighbor, this is so big, you have to pay it back. And if you're further away, the pressure decreases in a way.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. The two doctors raised their hands. Okay.
Because it really fits after Ralph's comment.
Yes,
I'll make it short.
Sure.
We also looked into you know, the concept of closeness in different dimensions, and I could just yeah, agree with Ralph that on the one hand, social pressure increases the probability that the money is paid back, but on the other hand, also the social closeness, or which has nothing to do with the geographical proximity or closeness, also means that you don't, you know, as one alumni of us once expressed it, I really liked how he expressed it, and he says it's better to have 200 consumers in your back than bank in your neck. Because your consumers, if you're close to them in terms of you have, you know, some type of relationship, you communicate with them, they know what's going on, bad weather conditions or whatever, machinery broke down, then their empathy to sort of not insist on their reward can be never ending, or their patience in you paying back despite the social pressure can be you know, forever. And that's something that, especially for the bigger amounts of money, or the bigger financing chunks, is really important, especially for young farmers that start up a business.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Lay-Kumar, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think that trust is really a crucial point. And as you were asking, I was trying to map down what activities we're doing in order to create and promote trust. And I think one really important thing about our partner network is that we are creating trust within the value chain, or in the, we say, value space, so Wertschöpfungsnetzwerk, so that different actors talk to each other, tell each other about their problems, also tell each other early. For example, I have a problem in my agricultural production, so the processor knows it straight away and doesn't get problems, or the retailer is informed. And of course, it's very important for us that we are all in the same region, so we actually personally know each other, we buy at the shops, or we know, well, we all, yeah, we have these really strong bonds. We have network meetings in addition, where we tell each other those also uncomfortable things. Of course, we have a monthly newsletter, and we have a very long socio-ecological report that we are publishing, where we are telling about the activities that we have, about the services, but also giving a little bit of story, what went well, what went not so well, what was a challenge this year. And I think this whole conglomerate of keeping up to each other personally in the network meetings, in the reports, really builds like different layers of trust.
Thank you. I think that that concludes our session. What a nice statement for the end there. Thank you, everybody, for this very informative session. I'm sure we will dare to imagine more funding possibilities now, and I hope we inspired some of the people in the audience. I want to say thank you again to Professor Anna-Maria Häring. I want to say thank you to Ralf Böhlke, Johanna Saxler, Dr. Jenny Lay-Kumar, Gonzalo, Úrculo, and of course, all the people who ask questions in the audience. Thank you, and stick around for, oh, yes. Oh, that was just a goodbye wave. All right, thank you, everybody, and yes, stick around for the next panel discussion. Goodbye, have a nice afternoon.
Thank you, goodbye.